Shalom, it's Prince Kadash. Want to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. This one's going to be called Come Together and Sell What Ye Have. So, this lesson here came to my mind probably like a couple days ago. So, I got to get back in the spirit because I wasn't able to get to it right away, pretty much. But the title pretty much explains it. Come Together and Sell What Ye Have. And I got that title, or the spirit came on me to do this lesson because I was, studying. So I was reading through the book of Acts, and then I got to Acts chapter 2, right? And I was thinking, like, what the apostles had did in the way they had everything set up, So there's been, a lot of talks and stuff about how people have their different camps set up, the order that they put up and things like that, and people pick and choose because they say, look, we got to do this, we got to do this. And then you will hear, okay, well, we living in this time, so we can't do this and can't do that, So I pretty much got in the Bible and I was like, you know what? To figure out the true way, right? And the true order and how things and what we should be trying or inspiring to be like and coming together under in the way that we should have it, let me get in the Bible and read it, because the answer is there, right? All our answers is right here. This is what the Lord left us to get all our answers, right? So what we should be doing instead of be aspiring to do is the same things that Yahushua and his disciples did, and the way they had their stuff set up, that's what we should be aspiring to set up as, right? So it led me to think, like, kind of like what's on your screen too. It was like, how many brothers would be down to do this, and who would have the power to bring brothers together to do this? And, I was thinking maybe the elders and stuff like that, they will have the power, because people respect their words, because people, it's a lot of respect of persons going on. And of course, they work to get to the place they at. They would be able to do something like this. And then the next thought that had came to my mind was like, well, why isn't it happening? And it was like pretty much just the Lord didn't put the spirit for it to happen this way, but it's just a lot of bullshit. Like, me personally, I think, brothers ain't got that spiritual power yet. The end is kind of lagging because we as a people, especially as the ones that know they're Israelites, we ain't got our shit together yet. There's still things that we have to advance on. There's still things that we have to do better. We're not doing things the right way, and I see this because you see it with all these different camps, man. It's a lot of bullshit that be going on that could be handled, that really could be handled and taken care of, but it takes certain people to step up, and those people don't want to step up and do those things. Then this is what we're left with, who everybody looks at. You got leaders of every different camp who everybody look up to. And then I was thinking, I'm just telling you my thoughts, right? Why these leaders don't just sit down? Like, how hard is it for the leader of this camp, the leader of that camp, to sit down and come with something where they could be in unity, because really, this is, and let me just read it. Let me just read it straight from the Bible, right? This is Acts chapter 2, verse 41. Acts chapter 2, verse 41. It says, then they that gladly received his word were baptized, right? So same thing with us today. We gladly receive the word when we come into the truth, and that is the baptism of the word. It says, in the same day there were added into them about 3,000 souls. So you can't use the excuse that you got too many members, while the band, people live in different cities, you know what I mean? We could all come together because they had 3,000 souls that was together physically there with them, right? It says, and they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship. So they 3,000 souls fellowship together. So you mean to tell me they were able to do this in in the ancient days, but we aren't able to do this today with all the technology you have and stuff? It says in breaking of bread in prayer. It's not enough for us just to do everything on the internet. The internet gets a lot of things fucked up, a lot of people in trouble. It's the internet. The internet is the problem behind a lot of things, because people get different feelings. People act tough over the internet. People, when you're in person, it's a whole different story when you're out there. And that's why the highways and byways are so important, even though we could do everything on the internet, right? You could just upload videos on the internet all day, but we still have to go on the highways and byways. Why? Because being in person is way more important, you know? Um, Now let's keep going. It says, so they had 3,000 souls, right? It says, and they continued steadfastly in apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and breaking of bread and in prayer. It means more when we come together and pray rather than we're just all on the internet doing individual prayers. It says, and fear came upon every soul. So, a lot of men will tell you, hey, look, just go out there and teach. You ain't gotta be amongst us. This ain't about that. We not taking new members or whatever. But that's not the spirit, because look at the spirit they had. They had 3,000 men. They could have been like, look, we ain't taking new members. Look, just y'all go out there individually and teach. They were trying to come together. And that's the thing, because I've been sitting back and I've been kind of pondering on that. Like, is it for us, the ones that's walking up to the truth, that believe in the Lord, believe in the name? Is it for us to come together, or is it for us to be all fragment, broken up and separate, you know? And this is the answers that I'm getting, right? So, and fear came upon every soul, and it says, and fear came upon every soul. That's what makes this possible. It's the fear, right? But there's some missing things, right? And this is it. And this is it right here. And many wonders and signs were done by the apostles, right? So we have a lot of men that could teach. We have a lot of men that just talk, pretty much. That's all. That's the whole thing. Just talking, teaching, right? But how many men have we seen do wonders and signs, which goes into the spiritual power, right? And that's when you're going to get 3,000 men. And then I got my answer. My answer was, when you see individuals get real spiritual power, and it could be confirmed, just like Yahweh Shai was showing spiritual power, wonders and signs, right? Then, just like with Yahweh Shai, then that's when you're going to have everybody come together. And what is that going to look like, right? That's going to look like, you're going to have two things happen. You're going to have the elect, right? Sheep should hear my voice, right? That's going to see these wonders and these signs and these spiritual powers that certain brothers are going to get. And then you're going to have men from all these different camps, one Western camps, right? That's going to leave those camps and come together under these men that are showing this spiritual power, or with these men that are showing this spiritual power. That's when we're going to get us coming together. And that's going to happen sometime, shit, probably soon. Coming up soon, if you had to ask me. But it's going to happen before the actual, and before the Lord returns, you know. And then you're going to have on the other end, you're going to have man that is caught up in this camp, that camp. I have to be with this camp. I have to be with this camp. I have to go with this doctrine. That's gonna be respective of persons. This person didn't get the spiritual power, but I'm riding with him. I'm staying with him. And these guys that did get the spiritual power, that's witchcraft. You're gonna have that. They said the same thing about Yahweh Shah. They said the exact same thing. He said he's the son of God. They said that was blasphemy. And they say they pretty much said, just to break it down in worldly terms, they pretty much said he was lying. Even after he showed all these miracles, and all the rumors of all these miracles he was doing was going around, they still say that he was lying. And you're going to have those same men today, when certain men do get that spiritual power, because the Lord gave them that spirit. That's when you get the order set up. When the Lord gives the man spiritual power, the elect spiritual power, that's his order. That's who he chose to be empowered, to be in this position, to be in that position. But you're going to have men, let me ask you this, right? If, let's just say a brother, not a part of your camp, right, has been in the truth for 1 year, right? He never been a part of your camp, right? And you only deal with people really in part of your camp. You really only exhort and show love to people in your camp, right? The Lord gives him spiritual power, right? Whatever it may be. The spiritual power may be literally he may be like invincible. Let's just say that he might get spiritual power. He might be able to do some stuff like King David, you know, take down thousands of men, and he invincible pretty much, right? Now this is demonstrated, right? First, it's on the internet, everybody's seeing it, like, man, look at this brother, look. He invincible, and look, he could he could fly or some shit, like, man, whatever the spiritual power be, like, he really floating, like. And then, you know, you send brothers out, and brothers are curious, and they go to test this, right? And they see it for their own eyes, like, oh shit, like, this brother really got spiritual power, right? It's not a gimmick, it's real, you believe, right? Because the case is, I mean, even if Yahushua and the angels came down on chariots, anybody could say that it's fake. You got to really believe that you see the chariot, that you see that power. Anybody could see the war in heaven, Revelation chapter 12, and say it's all fake. So at some point, you got to believe. That's what this goes off, right? So let's just say you see that, right? And, you know, since he got that spiritual power, kind of like the movie Burn Bright. I believe it's Burn Bright, the little Edomite kid that got that spiritual power, and he was able to be like them, like Superman, right? You see that, right? And he's getting instructions to him to do this, do that, do this, gather the people in this way, that way, right? Now, are you going to come under that man? Or are you going to say, nah, I ain't dealing with that man, right? Because I'm stuck with this group, and this is how I'm going to ride it out to the end. Because he's only been in for a year, or you really don't know him, or he wasn't a part of your group. You see how silly that shit is? That's what you got to be very, very, very careful of, you know, because like it said right here in Acts 2, it says fear came upon every soul. So you see this power, that fear could come upon you. It says, and many wonders and signs were done by the apostles. We're all disciples and apostles in a way today, but the ones that get that spiritual power, that's the order. Because I was looking for the order, right? That's the order that the Lord's going to set up. But we ain't seen no mans with no spiritual power or do many wonders or signs where you're wondering, like, how the hell did he do that? Like, what is that? That's spiritual power. We ain't seen that yet, right? It says, and all that believed were together, right? All that believed were together, you see? And had all things common. So, of course, you could go in the Bible and you could pull precepts here and there that goes against that. Now, we ain't supposed to be together. Nah, the Lord wants things to be separate, of course. But what does this say right here? This is an example. It says, and all that believe were together. We all say that we're believers, right? Then we should be together and had all things in common. But that's going to happen when certain men, whoever the Lord decides, he gives that spiritual power to. But you don't want to be the guy that is denying that. Kind of like they denied the Lord. You know, when he gives his elect the spiritual power, you're the guy, I ain't fucking with him. Or I ain't fucking with Kadash because of this, because of that. He ain't part of our camp. But the Lord then gave me spiritual power. Just as an example. Now, the picture that's on your screen, right? It's just like a little picture I see that I thought was interesting. How they got pretty much somebody owns some land, and this is what they build on their land, and it's communities, you know? And I was wondering, I was like, black people, so-called black people, right? Why can't we do this? Why we got to live in the inner cities? We got to be under Esau. Why can't we come together, you know? We have the money to do it. Buy land and build our communities and live amongst each other and follow the Lord to the best of our ability, right? Because you may say, because that's not how it's supposed to be done. That's not, we got to be out there feeding the sheep. So we got to be in the cities, right? You can even do it within the cities, right? So now let's keep going. Acts 2, right? Verse 44. Again, it says, and all that believed were together and had all things common, and sold their possessions and goods, right? So they sold them. So when you sell something, you get something back. You get money, all right? Whatever the money may be at that time. It says, imparted them to all men as every man had need. And they continually, daily, with one accord in the temple. So they had a temple. They sold everything. They got their monies. They come together. You'll be surprised if I sold everything I had right now. you'd be surprised. It'd be definitely a decent amount of money, right? Now, if you have 3,000 brothers and you have some well-off brothers out there, right, that sold everything they had, right? Imagine how much money that would be if those 3,000 souls came together, right? I mean, just if you get 3,000 people sell everything they got and they get $10 back each after everything they sell, they able to come up with $10, right? What's that? 30,000? $100, which is nothing, man. What's that? 300,000. Okay, everybody's able to get $1,000, right? What's that? What's that? Is that 3 million? If I'm not going off, 3 million. Everybody's able to get $10,000. That's the average throughout the whole 3,000 people, right? That's $30 million. I know I could get 10,000. I could get probably that times 10. You see what I'm saying? So you got some brothers well off. You got some brothers that wouldn't, but the average, that's everybody's able to get 10,000. The average, that's 30 million under with 3,000 people. If I'm not going off with my math, right? So this is what they did. Everybody sold their possessions, right? And this may still happen, but this may happen even closer towards the end when the Lord does give man that spiritual power. I was just, thinking about it and wanted to do a lesson on it, right? It says, and they continue daily with one accord in the temple. Men are going to be in one accord, especially when the Lord's true order and true man are set up in positions, because he's going to get those men spiritual power and it's going to be undeniable. Then that's when men are going to be one accord. It says, and breaking bread from house to house, right? So they shared everything, right? Did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart. Now when this happened, this was still considered the end times when this happened, when they came together. Like, this is after Yahushua, right? Under the disciples, the apostles, the disciples were turned to apostles. Yahushua did that, and then he gave them power, right? So this was still the end times, so it's no different to today. Today is still the end times, and they still did this. Now, what camps do you see doing this, right? What camps do you see getting all their members, selling everything they have, right? And all coming together, fellowship, and really living together, because it said they all believe and were together and had all things in common. Let's, in the last verse 47, praising God and having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. And the Lord added to them. So this shows you that this is actually a great thing to do, because the Lord was adding to them daily. So the Lord was with them, but like I said, this could happen when certain men get that spiritual power. But how many camps are willing to do that? To all they men, look, we all gonna come together in New York, right? It's a lot of different camps that's based out of New York, right? But all right, we all gonna come together in New York, right? And we're gonna come together, and we're gonna, I don't know, get a community like this that's on your screen, or get a big college, right? And we're like a college dorm, because I mean, if you put your monies together, you'll be surprised. Like 30 million is enough to find like a college campus and probably buy one or create one or build one. And you probably get a lot more money than that, because you'll probably get a lot more people. They got 3,000 souls during their time. Imagine with the internet and how many people. I think Vocab Malone said that there was millions of Hebrew Israelites. Imagine how many people you would get and how much you would be able to get in order to do something like this. And it's not a bad thing, because this is what the disciples did, the apostles did, and we supposed to be trying to be like them. Now, the next thing that came to my head was like, but how would that work? Because we supposed to be in all the different cities, right? Teaching the elect out there, on the highways and byways, right? And we still got to go out on the highways and byways. So I was like, so what about them, right? But then when I went back to verse, let me see, because this is all off the top of the head. Verse 5, right? then it kind of answered that question. I'm like, but we got to be throughout the whole country teaching, right? Because we got to be on the different highways and byways and everything. And then this answered the question for me. Acts chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So they was coming from different nations, but they came together. It says, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together, see, and were confounded because that every man heard them speaking in his own language. So imagine that we all go to wherever, we all come together under the same location, New York, right? Every man is selling what they got, they moving to New York, right? We buying different, or if we not building something like this, then we just living in the same city close together, right? And we're going out there and teaching. It says, imagine how powerful that would be, though. I feel like that would force Esau to have to do something, and then the Lord would do something. You know, and maybe that's why we're still in the position we're in, because we don't have our shit together as a body. You got different camps that like close off and say, look, we're this camp, and then they think they got their shit together as a camp, but it's bigger than that. You really not helping, because it's about all Israel. It's about the elect. And I say it's about all Israel because the elect is scattered throughout all Israel, and you don't know who the elect is. So just like when you on the highways and byways, you can't just say, look, this is only for the elect. We only teaching the elect. That would imply that you know who the elect is. This is only for the elect, but right now we have to look at it like all Israel. That's why when any Israelite come up, you give him the word, because you don't know if he's the elect or not. It is only for the elect, but we got to look at it like all Israel, because we don't know who the elect is in all Israel. It's just about being efficient, right? If I got 10 sticks, right? And amongst these 10 sticks is, let's just say, like 4 of them are my elected sticks, but I don't know which ones is which, right? I take all 10 in, and the other 6 that's not, they fall off, and then I have my 4. You see what I'm saying? Now this is just with 10. Now take a billion sticks, right? And you got, let's just say, I'm just throwing a number out there, a billion sticks, and you got 10 million that's your elected sticks, right? Trying to find those 10 million amongst that billion is going to take, it's going to be way less more efficient if you bring in as many as you can, right? And then the ones that's not just fall off. That's the parable of the wheat and the tares. That's why the Lord said, let the wheat grow with the tares. Instead of just, look, let's get the wheat from out of the tares and separate them while we going, which is what groups are trying to do. The Lord said, let the wheats grow with the tares. You bring in as many members as you can. You let the wheats grow with the tares. And then the Lord, that's where your faith comes in, that the Lord's going to get the tares. Now let's keep going, right? It says, so imagine if we all came together, you're going to have brothers speaking Spanish, different type of dialects of the Spanish, Spanish, and you're going to have brothers speaking English, all different types, right? It says, and they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak it says, and how hear we every man in his own tongue wherein we were born, right? It says Parthians and Medes, and just all the different languages, right? And it's just going through it. Elamites, and we know that these are talking about all the Israelites that's living in these different nations. Mesopotamia, Pontus, Asia, and then Egypt, Libya, I'm just jumping through. Rome, right? And it just keeps going on and on. And it says, and we do hear them speak in our own tongues the wonderful works of God. And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, what meaneth this? Others mocking said, these men are full of new wine. But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken, as ye suppose. He said, look, they not drunk. This is spiritual power. Seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day, but this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, say God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and young men shall see visions, and your old man shall dream dreams, which is a precept of Joel chapter 2, verse 27 down. It says, and my servant and my handmaids I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy, right? And I will show wonders in the heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke, right? So, I mean, just like they thought it was the end times during their time, even all the way now, it's still all been the end times, right? Every since Yahweh Shai came on the scene, it's been the end times, right? But maybe something like this will happen, when the Lord gives out that spiritual power, because you can have it set up to where, like, even in one city where pretty much kind of like the Passover, everybody, all your members meet up and doing the Passover, and then brothers go back to their individual city. But that's not how they had it set up. They had they men together. They was in the temple, kind of like if you had like a college campus, right? And they were in the temple and they were living together and they sold everything they have. How many men would be willing to do that? Men say, and see, this is why the MOTB is such a great thing, because that's going to test everybody's faith. You got a lot of men that could teach good. You got a lot of men that could speak good. You got a lot of men that's loyal to their camp, right? Or whatever. But when you don't have that help and you out there on your own or whatever, and the MOTB comes, right?